Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Finale, and this is Real Estate Talk TGIF, and it's episode 299, which is 296 weeks in a row. And today I have the privilege and honor to have Mr. Kyle Whissel from San Diego, the Whissel team, Whissel group out in San Diego, Carlsbad, Santee, and where's the other office?
Temecula.
Temecula. So, Kyle, you were on episode 101, which is almost 3 years ago. It was in June of 2000. Where is it? Where's my note? 2021. So thanks so much for coming on. We're going to get right to it and have some fun. We're going to help a lot of agents today. But first, the video. Real estate agents, are you looking to acquire clients consistently to grow your business and income for a great lifestyle? Well, this is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and the Modern Agent team. Good morning, everybody. Again, this is Dave Finale, and this show is brought to you by njheroesprogram.com, which is a simple thing where we help heroes in the state of New Jersey. Buy a hero, please reach out to me, and I'd be glad to help you as much as possible find that home or to sell that home. And go to njheroesprogram.com. You'll see that scrolling a little bit. Good morning, Mr. Kyle Whissel.
What's up, man? I'm excited to rock this with you. I just missed the cool episodes, 101 instead of 100. Now I'm 299 instead of 300. Like I'm almost the milestone episodes, but it's cool.
But I will tell you, Kyle, that every week is a milestone for me because I get to do these every week. And I tell you what, man, people say, how long are you going to keep doing it? And I say, well, you know what? I don't know, but I can't stop. It's like I have to keep going. It's like I have this run, right? And people say, I used to smoke cigarettes, and people say, how long ago did you quit? I said, I never quit. I just haven't had a cigarette in 6 years. Let's see, what's today? March 1st? 6 years, 6 years and 25 days. That's what I know, right? Yeah. So it's on a run. So anyway, here we are. We're going to talk about real estate. Before we get into real estate, I want to know a little bit more about you. But I do have one question for you. And I asked you this the last time. I'm going to ask it again. What does TGIF stand for?
Oh, man, there's so many ways you could go with that. I'm going to go with thank goodness I'm free.
You know, I really like that one. I really do like that, but it's not what I was aiming for. It's thank God it's finale, just like it was at 101. Thank God it's finale. Here we are. My broadcast, my show, I call it whatever I want. And here it is, man. So Kyle, you know what? We've known each other through this platform, through the Fast Forward movement, seeing you in person at different events. But I don't know about you. I know about you, but I want to tell the audience where you came from, where you started, right? To get to where you are, to being one of the top teams in the country overall and in San Diego, let alone that. So talk to me about where you came from, what your journey was, man.
Yeah, for sure. So growing up, I never in a million years thought I would get into real estate. I hated real estate growing up. Reason for that is my dad was in real estate. He was a top commercial broker here in San Diego. And I often associated real estate with the times where he would show up late to pick me up or wouldn't be able to pick me up or would show up late to a game. I played a ton of sports growing up or would miss a game. Like I always had like this association that real estate was the reason that all of that stuff happened. So honestly, I had a distaste for real estate growing up as a kid. So never in a million years did I think I would get into real estate. I was in college. I was working at the AMC movie theater, scooping popcorn. And my dad kept telling me, he's like, you need to buy something. You need to buy something. You need to buy something. This was in the early 2000s. And I was like, Dad, I scoop popcorn at a movie theater and I make like, I don't even know what I made, like $5 an hour or something stupid. And I was getting pushed. He's like, buy. I'm like, Dad, I can't. He's like, you know, back then they pretty much put a mirror under your nose. If you could fog it, they would give you a loan. That's right. They did. They gave me a loan for $500,000 because we claimed I was a manager at the movie theater at the time. And we got later, I realized they put that I made $10,000 a month on the loan application when I made like $5 something an hour. So kind of crazy, but that was the nature of the beast in this market. That's why we ended up in a huge foreclosure crisis because stuff like that was happening. But I bought this property. I was 20 years old when I bought it, sold it a few months later. I netted $17,000 from that sale. Simultaneously, the movie theater had just offered me a nickel an hour raise.
All
And I was
right.
like, screw this. This is stupid. I'm going to get into real estate. Dad, let's talk about it. So he was ecstatic that I actually wanted to get into real estate. I worked with him on the commercial real estate side, primarily multifamily and retail. The niche that we had kind of carved out for ourselves here in San Diego, there was what's known as condo conversions. That's where somebody buys an apartment building, they kick everybody out, they remodel all the units, and then they sell them off separately, individually, and where people are making stupid amounts of money. And so what ended up happening is the prices on apartments got driven through the roof because of the amount of money you could make when you sold them off as condos later. Eventually, the city stopped the ability to do these conversions. Well, the price of apartments was so high that the only way it made sense to buy an apartment anymore was if you can convert it, but you couldn't convert it. So therefore, it made no sense to buy apartments. So all my investors at that point were saying, well, I can't buy apartments anymore, but what about this short sale? What about this foreclosure? And I started looking around at all of these agents that had 100 short sales, 200 foreclosures, 300 short sales. I was like, holy shit, this is crazy. And so I kind of saw that as an opportunity, one, to obviously move to, there's that Wayne Gretzky quote, like, skate to where the puck is going to be. Like, I saw that's where the puck is going. So I need to move before I have to. So that was also a good opportunity for him to branch out on my own away from my dad. So I left doing commercial with him, started my own brokerage. And that was in 2008 that I started that. So I worked with him for like 5 or 6 years. And then I branched out, did a ton of short sales, tons of foreclosures. And then as that business started to grow, I had all of these listings. I needed agents to help me on the buy side. And like, I screwed this up so royally in the beginning. At the beginning, I would have all these leads coming in. I didn't have any agents. So I would just once a week, I would print out a list of all the leads that had come in, and I would send them over to my buddy who ran a competing brokerage and be like, here, have your agents follow up with these. If you guys close anything, just pay me a referral fee. Of course, they closed nothing. So then I said, you know what, this isn't working. Why don't I bring a couple agents on under me? And I brought a couple buddies and I was like, here, you guys work these leads. But I did no training, no support, no systems, no accountability, nothing. So they didn't convert any of the leads. Then I was sitting around it was a Black Friday, and Dell had a sale on computers. And they were like $300 for a computer. And I was like, you know what? It's time. Like, it's time to go big. And I bought 10 computers. And I was in a 100-square-foot office at the time with just me and an assistant and 2 buyer's agents that really didn't do anything. So then I bought 10 computers and I was like, all right, I got 10 computers. I'm going to need an office to put these computers in. So then I went and I leased up a bigger office. Then I had an office plus 10 computers. And I was like, all right, now I need at least 10 people for all these computers I bought. So that first year, that was 2010. I just hired anybody and everybody, like anybody that just wanted to work. I was hiring them. And that was like the first thing in the world that I could do. At that time I was, 14 years ago. So I was like mid-20s, very, very techie. And I'm hiring people that are 20 years old and I'm hiring people that are 120 years old. Quickly, like there's an avatar that works with me and there's an avatar that doesn't. If somebody can't log into their email, they're not going to be a good fit on our team. So I learned a lot about finding like what's that ideal avatar for my team that year and making sure to only hire people that fit that avatar, not trying to fit square pegs into round holes. Not that the 120-year-old agent can't be successful. One of my biggest competitors, he's probably like 90, still crushes it. It's just a different way of doing business. So understanding that you can't force people to be a fit in your organization, understanding what that right fit is, or we call it the right avatar. Very valuable lesson to learn that. Once I learned that, it's been off to the races ever since. We've been #1 team in San Diego County 7 of the last 9 years. As of today, we're #1 in the entire country with eXp Realty right now. So it's been an amazing run.
So that's, I think one of the most important things when we talk about teams, we talk about brokerages is when I was in the game with owning a brokerage, which I walked away from like 6+ years ago, it was like it was like the fog test. Like you said, to get a license, you had the fog test. To hire someone, it was the same thing. If they could breathe and they could get a license, you brought them in. And that was that I believe is where we're at with today with the brokerages that don't work and the teams that don't work. It's just numbers game, right? There's a lot of companies out there where it's all about numbers, and they believe they're going to get paid on those numbers from time to time. And you talked about the avatar that fits your business, and this is for teams and brokerages. Talk to me about how you actually get to that avatar. What are the questions you have to ask? What are the boxes that need to be checked for you, Kyle, and in your company first, and then what can work elsewhere?
Yeah, so we've actually went through a really good exercise a few years ago when we implemented EOS into our business. EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. If you have any desire to build any sort of a business, I don't care if it's real estate, podcasting, YouTubing, whatever, like everybody should have a system they run their business on. For us, EOS is that system. So one of the exercises in EOS is to determine your core values of your company. And I actually did this a long time ago, and I realized how stupid it was the way that I did it. Is I literally got like my whole team in a room together, and like collectively we came up with like what the core values were for the company. 0 of those people that were in that room are still with my company today. What the F are we doing letting our people determine what my core values are for the company I'm building? Like, that was such a stupid way to do it. And conveniently, because they came up with it, not me, I wasn't bought into those same core values. And therefore we didn't really do anything. It was one of those, just like most people, you like put the core values up on a wall or something and you're like, all right, check, we have core values, but they weren't really the true values that we wanted at the core, which obviously is what core values should be. So we went through an exercise with EOS that was really, really cool. And so what they asked us to do, think of the 3 agents on your team that if you could hire 1,000 of them, you would do it tomorrow. So think of who are those 3 agents. And so we picked those 3 agents. And then they were like, all right, well, now I want you to, the person that we used to implement EOS, it was all about Post-it notes. So then he gave everybody, this was just my leadership team. So then he gave all my leadership team Post-its, and he's like, now I want you guys to write down, what is it about these 3 people, right? Think about each of them individually. Like, what is it about Matt? What is it about JC? What is it about Lisa? Like, what is it about these 3 people that you absolutely love, that if you could hire 1,000 of them tomorrow, you would do it? And so then we went through and we started writing all the things. What do we love about Lisa, Matt, JC? Like, what is it about these people that we really love that are like true at their core? Like, we would love 1,000 people that are like them. And so then we started with, probably like 100 things. We narrowed it down to like 10 things. And then he was like, look, you don't have to pick them now. Ideally, I want to get you guys around like 5 to 7 core values is kind of a sweet spot. But we got you down to 10. So let's just chew on these 10 for a month. I want you to think about these. I want you to start observing, other people in the company. Start really, sleeping on this and feeling this and see what really sticks. And after a month, it became really clear that half of those 10 were just like, it would be cool if people were like this, but we don't need them to be like this. And so we narrowed it down to 5. And those 5, like, we hired to them, we fired to them, we give raises to them. Like, we live and die by those core values, like, because we're so passionate about them. So they're not just these like words that are up on a wall. If somebody's not upholding those core values, which we review them quarterly with all of our leadership team, so they have to do a self-evaluation, and then we sit down and go over that evaluation with them too. If they're missing more than 1 core value, they're gone. Like, there's just no room for that. So having true core values, knowing exactly who it is you want, and being willing to say, I don't care what somebody's production is, you are not a fit for this team. You do not exhibit these core values, and being comfortable, not, whether you're not going to hire that person or you're going to fire that person because of it, you have to do that. It's imperative as you build an organization to make sure that people live and die by those same core values.
So moving forward, using core values to hire people, the right people for your team, it allows you to be a better broker owner, broker manager, and team leader, right? It allows you to be able to operate at a peak performance of who you want to work with, right? So to be a better team leader, I'm saying, is that's one of the key issues. What would be some other issues? Having the right people is number one. Now, what's next for someone to be a better team leader with respect to now having the right people?
Yeah, I think there's two components. I mean, especially we've seen meteoric growth in the last couple of years. So here in San Diego last year, the number of transactions was down 25%.
Right.
We were up 22%. So massive growth when you factor in, what happened in the market. And then this year to date, we're up 55% from the same time a year ago. So we're experiencing a lot of growth, and it's really two things. One, we are consistently recruiting. You have to always be recruiting. I do coaching with John Cheplack. His thing is KFR, keep effing recruiting. You have to constantly be hiring people's replacements, because what ends up happening is if you're not constantly bringing new people into your company, you start to get complacent. You start to tolerate things that you shouldn't tolerate, especially if you have a small team. If you have like 5 people on your team, you're terrified to let go of one person, especially if they're one of your better performers, because if you do, that's 20% of your company's gone. That's pretty damaging. But if you had more people coming in consistently, you'd be more comfortable getting rid of people. But when you keep it really small and you're not bringing new people in on a consistent basis, you end up holding on to a lot of people that you shouldn't. So we've been averaging, we bring a class in every month, and we're averaging about 8 people per class. So last year we brought in close to 100 agents total into the company. And in an average month, we're cutting about 5 agents. So we're only growing net 3 per month. Now, are we cutting 5 of those specific 8? No, just 5 in general. But it's my goal for my trainer. So they do like a 2-week in-office training. It's my goal for her to cut at least 1 person during training. And then you might be like, wow, that's kind of harsh. Like, why? Well, here's the thing is, I have recruiters. When we're recruiting somebody, we're maybe spending 2 hours, maybe 3 hours total as we recruit somebody before we bring them onto the team.
Right.
A lot of people can put on a pretty face for 2 or 3 hours and convince you that there's somebody more than what they really are.
Right.
But when you're in a training class for 2 full weeks for 8 hours a day, it's pretty hard to put on that face for that long. So she's exposed to who these people really are a lot more than the pretty face they put on in the interview. So I want her to cut somebody. So whether it's they're showing up late, they're disrespectful, they're distracted the entire time, or they just don't have it, right? There's people, really clearly, like after a while, you wonder how they tied their shoes. You'd think they need Velcro shoes. You're like, I don't understand. How did you even get here today? Like you drove, you're capable of driving. Like that happens. So it's ideally she's cutting at least 1 person, and we're making it a very public example too, especially if it's somebody who's showing up late, disrespectful, that like she makes it very clear, like, hey, you're going to notice this room is 1 less than it was yesterday. This is not a place where it's acceptable to show up late, because we have a saying in our office, how you do anything is how you do everything. Right. So if you're going to show up late to this training, you're going to show up late when I give you a $5 million seller, and that's not okay. So this room is now 1 person short. We're not going to put up with that here. And now the other 7 are like, oh shit, like they're for real here. Like they're not playing around. So super important. And then the rest of the ones that in an average month, again, we're cutting about 5. Typically there's 1 or 2 that leave because they just realize like, this just isn't working. Right. I'm broke. And then the rest will be cut because they're not hitting our expectations. So we have both production expectations and we have activity expectations. So those activities are things like coming to the meetings, getting on huddles in the morning, role playing, doing open houses. We have segments in our CRM, making sure they're calling through all the segments when they're supposed to. So whether it's production or activity based, we cut people for that as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, the important part is as John says, I mean, there's one thing that will cure every problem or any problem in your business, and that's recruiting. And you know what? You can say the same thing for agents, because I'm not saying recruiting for agents. I'm talking about prospecting, which is really what recruiting really is. Yeah. So when you bring in those agents, right, you want them to put in that time, and in that training class you have, which is 8 hours a day, it kind of gives them a basis for how their day should go. Talk to me about what's important for that agent to learn and to have that plain and simple a schedule.
Yeah, so I mean that's a huge part of it. So I actually built out this calculator to help people understand why prospecting is so important. Because what I found is far too often you watch a webinar, a podcast, a YouTube video, you go to a conference, everybody tells you you need to prospect. I think everybody knows that they need to. There's no mystery around it, right? Everybody knows. Just like if you want to get in shape, everybody knows just hit the damn gym and you'll get in shape. Like we all know what we need to do. But I think that people haven't actually like sat down and looked at the science behind it, looked at the math behind it. So I built this little calculator out. So I'm going to just run through these numbers. If anybody wants a copy of this, DM me on Instagram at Kyle Whissel. So I ran through this and figured out a few ratios. How many dials do we have to make to have a contact? On average, we see that around 10. Every 10 dials, you're going to have one contact. Then we looked at how many contacts do I need to have to set an appointment. We're running this at like 1 out of 10. So for every 10 people I talk to, I'm going to set one appointment. And then out of every appointment that I set, how many of those turn into a closing? We're running this at 1 out of 4. And then we looked at what's an average commission, $10,000. So when we factor that information in, we can boil this down to 3 key numbers. And I think once people understand these numbers, it makes it a whole lot easier to get motivated to prospect versus somebody just telling you to prospect, because that's how you make money. So assuming this information and assuming we can make about 20 dials in an hour, every single dial you make, every single dial, regardless if you actually connect with the person or not, just the art of dialing the phone number,
Right.
$25. Every single time that you actually connect with somebody and have at least a two-way communication beyond just F you, lose my number, any sort of two-way communication back and forth, $250 just every single time that you have a conversation with somebody. And the hourly rate, given all those variables, it's $500 an hour. That's a lot of freaking money. And so if we can actually think about it like, every time I pick up the phone, it's worth $25. And every time I talk to somebody, it's worth $250. And every hour that I do this is worth $500. When we start to think about that, like, this isn't so hard. Like, I can do this because I know every time I put the phone up to my ear, $25. And now, yes, kids, you actually have to put it up to your ear, not just hold it in your hands. Like, you got to talk to people. Right. Every single time that you do that, that's worth $25. Like, it starts to become a lot easier. And then here's what's really crazy is, then I can break this down and look at like, what's my income goal for the year? So check this out. Based on that criteria, assuming I want to make $250,000, because look, 100,000, that used to be like the number that was cool that you made it. That number's 250 today. I'm sorry. Like 100 grand's not enough anymore. So 250 is what I think everybody should strive for. So to make $250,000 based on $10,000 per closing, that's 25 closings. Okay. Well, in order to do 25 closings, here's what's really crazy. If we just break that down to what do I have to do on a daily basis to make $250,000, all you have to do, 40 dials a day. All I got to do is have 4 conversations a day and set 0.4 appointments. Think about that real quick. All I got to do is make 40 dials, have 4 conversations and set 0.4 appointments a day, and I can make $250,000. Like when you actually boil it down to like those very, very simple numbers, I'm like, wait, you're telling me that if I could just make 40 dials a day, I can make $250,000 a year? Yep. But guess how many people actually do it, right? Yeah, very few do it. But if you knew the numbers behind it, it becomes a lot easier to do. But most often people just don't know those numbers. So they're just told, oh, you got to prospect, you got to prospect, you got to prospect. But if you know that that's what it takes in order to get $250,000, that's a lot more motivating to me.
The numbers and everything put together makes so much sense. And yet people refuse to do this. And I used to say years ago that this thing weighed about 700-800 pounds. It didn't look like this that 20 years ago, but it weighed 700-800 pounds. And then people would dial, and it'd be the hardest thing in the world after you pick up the phone to dial it. And then as you dialed it, there's the thing in your head saying, voicemail, please go to voicemail, right? That's what everybody said. Now, with what you just said and how you put it, it's a completely different way. And also, Kyle, the really important thing is that with what you're saying and how you do your business and how you lead your team, we're seeing a change, and that's going to change the business over from people that are just, fogging up that mirror, the people that are actually seeing ka-ching and seeing that cash register go off. And okay, so we can talk about the money, but we can also talk about helping people. And that is one of the biggest problems in our business. What I saw when I recruited for my brokerage was people would say, well, I'm busy. And the question I always wanted to ask was, busy doing what? Now? I don't give a shit. I said, well, you did 2 deals in the last 12 months. What are you busy doing?
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk about the time frame and the time that agents should be putting in, where you have a basis in your training for 8 hours a day. How many hours should a real estate agent be working, and should it take 8 hours to do those 40 calls, or is that based in a schedule and a calendar?
For sure. Yeah. So that's then, like, super passionate about this, because what I find is very few people start their first job in real estate. Like, most people have worked other jobs before. And in most jobs, right, we talked about the movie theater. Like, all I had to do at the movie theater was like fill the 8-hour day, and I got the same paycheck, regardless of like what I did, right? Some days I was at the ticketing counter. Some days I was scooping popcorn. Some days I was sweeping up. Some days I was, hooking the actual film up. Like, I got paid the same amount of money regardless of what I did for those 8 hours. And I think that translates over for a lot of people into real estate, where they come in and they're like, well, if I can fill an 8-hour day at the movie theater, I got paid, so it's going to be the same thing here. It doesn't work that way. Like, right. It's not about whether or not you fill an 8-hour day. It's what you fill that 8-hour day with. And so that's where I love to go to the math of this prospecting, to really understand the value of the time when you're prospecting. Because what I see today is there's far too much pressure to be successful on social media. Like, who makes the most money on social media is the people who tell you how to make money on social media. Like, right. It's a fucking pyramid scheme, dude. Like, I watch this shit all the time. There's people like, oh, follow me for more tips on how to get engagement on Instagram. And then I'll buy my course and I'll tell you how to get engagement on Instagram, so that you can then build a course on how to get engagement on Instagram, so you can build a course. Like, it's a fucking pyramid scheme. Like, none of them are actually making money selling real estate. Like, it's wild to me, man. It's wild. So what I say is, for every one person you can show me who's truly crushing it in real estate because of social media, I'll show you 1,000 that are crushing it because they prospect every day. Now, I'm not saying you can't be successful doing it via social. There are some, right? I have some friends that are really successful with it, but 999 out of 1,000 will do far better making phone calls. And so that's a big thing. But I see so many agents, they sit there and they spend like 2-3 hours a day, like making a reel that's 15 seconds long. Like, what are you doing? What could you do in those 2 or 3 hours? Like, you could make $20 an hour. And like we just said, if you could make $40 a day based on that criteria, you can make $250,000 a year. Get off the fucking social platforms. You're not the 1 in 1,000. Be the proven winner, which is all you got to do is just be in conversation with people. Like, the more conversations you have, the more money you're going to make in this industry.
Yeah, there's 2 things there I want to hit. Number one, there's so many people out there. There's so many groups or companies or people trying to sell you their shit. I see them every day. I get the calls every day. Could you use 3 to 4 more listings a month? Could you do this? Would you like to have 18 buyers? Would you like me to take 18 buyers and shove them somewhere for you? Every fucking day I see this stuff, and it just doesn't make sense to me what's going on. And it's just, the agents are looking for, if they're not prospecting, they're seeing, well, maybe I should do this. I had one of my mentees say to me, I'm having a lot of trouble with FSBOs. And, other than that, I'm working on trademarking my brand and getting my website going. And I got to think about buying leads. And I'm sitting there reading this and I'm saying, hey, dude, we got to talk. Right. And that's the kind of thing that's the old shit that we're still seeing. I saw a post today from Chuck Fazio, and it said, most real estate agents should put more time in actually working than looking for the magic pill, either at another company, but looking for the magic pill, period. Look, there's a really simple magic pill out there. It's called this.
Yeah.
Right. I firmly believe that. And when I'm talking about doing all these things, okay, fine. Social media is great. But it should be more, if you're not crushing it, like you said, the 1 in 1,000, I believe that you should be using it as a verification of who you are, what you are, and what your value is. Would you agree with that?
100%, dude. And here's the funny thing. My number one social media strategy today is don't post on social media. The number one social media strategy is simply to engage. You are far better off if you're going to spend an hour on social media. Don't spend it creating a reel. Spend it engaging. And Gary Vee had this thing a few years ago. He called it the $1.80 strategy. Give 90 people your 2 cents.
Yep.
If you just went on there, and we'll just call it 30. If you just went on and did 30 comments in an hour versus creating one reel, I promise you, you will get more result out of those 30 comments. Now, I learned this strategy when I first got into sales, and it was called answer and ask or acknowledge and ask. So the way the strategy works is, I had a buddy the other day that posted, happy birthday to my godson. And now I could say, like, happy birthday. I don't remember what his name was, but happy birthday, godson. Like, I could, or I could say, happy birthday, godson. Hey, Damon, how did you guys celebrate his birthday? And now Damon is going to respond back, and he's going to say, oh, well, we went to Chuck E. Cheese's or whatever. Like, we had a picnic at the park. We had a bounce house. Oh my gosh, I remember bouncing. When's the last time you've been in a bounce house? And I get this conversation going back and forth. That's powerful. That's freaking powerful. But instead, most people don't like that metric. They like the metric of, I put this video up and I got 1,000 views, 10,000 views. Like that makes me feel better because people are looking at me. And that's what we all want as realtors. But that two-way conversation is worth more than 10,000 views, in my opinion. But if you could go and do 30 comments and get into, even if half those turn into a conversation, you get into 15 freaking conversations in an hour, like, hello, that's freaking valuable. Now, if you do choose to post a reel or post any sort of content, guess what's going to happen? Yep. Those 30 people that you just posted comment on and or engage with, guess who's at the top of their freaking feed? Because if Instagram's like, hey, Dave posted, then Kyle commented, and then Dave commented back, and then Kyle commented back, like, Dave and Kyle are buddies. If Kyle posts, Dave probably wants to see what Kyle has to say. So now that content that you are creating is actually seen by the people you want it to be seen by.
Yeah. See, the first thing that people don't get is, oh, I got 8 comments on my video. I got 8 comments on my post. Did you respond to them? Yeah. Did you not just like it? Did you not say thank you? Did you actually respond? Because that's a conversation waiting to happen. And my example of this is really simple. Imagine me and Kyle go to Starbucks and we sit down, we have a cup of coffee. Kyle goes to Dave, I like that shirt. And Dave does this.
Yep.
That's exactly what it's like when someone comments and you don't respond. Yep. The prospecting that I work with, and I work with agents that I mentor and coach, is really simple. It's 3 hours of prospecting a day. The first 2 hours are all about on the phone. I don't care who you're calling. It's just so you're doing it on the phone and communicating and having conversations. The third hour, that last hour, is all about social engagement. It's commenting on posts, and it is commenting through stories. And this is the best way to build that. And you just said that. So I'm just reinforcing what I've been doing, what's really worked for me, not only for the agents I work with, but for my business as well. So we've got a lot of agents working. We've got a lot of agents that think they're working. Tell me about tell me about how we can get agents to work that full 8 hours. They're working 8 hours, but are they putting in 8 hours? Because let's face it, right? You talked about the movie theater. You got a paycheck every week. I believe agents should get a paycheck every week. There's no question, no reason why they shouldn't. And it depends on what they're doing. Are they doing everything that they should be every day? So talk to me about how we can increase productivity by actually working.
For sure. So for us, we built what we call a perfect 10 day. I find that if I leave my agents up to coming up with their own schedules, they're just not going to do it. I need to give them guidance. So we built what we call a perfect 10 day, which is the 10 activities you need to do on a daily basis to be able to go home and feel like, all right, I nailed it today. We've also give them an ideal weekly schedule of here's what to do every day. Like if you're trying to be a team leader, if you just tell your agents, like, go make phone calls, like, come start that today and tell me how that works out 30 days from now. But if you want to take it to another level, I'll share all this stuff. Like, again, DM me on Instagram. I'll give you the ideal weekly schedule. I'll give you the perfect 10 checklist. Like, I'll give you all that. But if you actually give them like a clear plan of attack of what to do on a daily, weekly basis, and then come talk to me in 30 days, you know this, right? Like, you all know, if you're watching this or you're listening to this right now, like, 30 days from now, if you gave your agents a clear plan, they're going to be light years ahead of if you just told them to go make phone calls. So why are you not doing it? You've got to tell them exactly what to do. And I'm the same way, Dave. I think you got to have an hour of like true prospecting, which in my eyes is talking to people you've never spoken to before. So whether that be expireds, for sale by owners, for rent by owners, circle prospecting, door knocking, right? Like generating new business. And then you should have at least an hour a day of follow-up. That's going through the leads that are already in your system. And then again, there's what's crazy is you have new agents who have nothing in their pipeline. Like that third hour is exactly what you talked about, is social media engagement, not posting, engaging. That's everything. And I love what you mentioned about the videos or just post in general. So many times people comment on your post and you're like, yeah, I got another one. Oh, how many comments did I get on this? But like, how many of those people are you engaging with? And now you could engage with them like in the comment section, or you could slide into the DM and have a more real conversation. And then we could go like, hey, Dave, how are the kids? How's the wife? How's that trip? Right? Oh, I know you and Brett are doing some stuff together. How's that? Like, now we're into that conversation. So, and honestly, like if we could just control those like 3 hours, life's great, right? You do whatever the hell you want the rest of the day. If I could just get those 3 hours out of you, we're golden. Some of the other things that we incorporate in ours, we role play like crazy. We're maniacal when it comes to role playing. I'm a huge proponent of role playing. I want to make mistakes on each other. I want to try new things on each other. I want to practice on each other so that when it's game time, I know exactly what to say. If they say this, I say that. If they say that, I say this. Just like the NFL, right? Like it's the off season for the NFL. Those guys are still practicing. They're still training. They're still watching film every day, right? Like Peyton Manning, he's my favorite example. Like that guy was the least athletic quarterback in the last decade, but he's also one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the last decade. It wasn't because of his physical abilities. It was because of how much freaking work that guy put in the film room and everything else, so that when he showed up, because these guys practice like 2,000 to 3,000 hours a year, all they play in is 17 meaningful games a year, and they're only on the field for half the game. So these guys are only on the field for 8.5 hours a year, but there's 2,000 to 3,000 hours a year of practice that go into those 8.5 hours of game time.
Right.
Well, guess what, guys? Like you can make that NFL money, but are you putting in anywhere near that NFL effort into your practice? Most of you aren't even practicing daily. Those guys are practicing 2,000 to 3,000 hours a year. You won't even put in 15 minutes a day. It's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, people want to be paid like that superstar, but you know, they want to just tell people how great they are, and that's really, you know, one of the other things to look at is people are trying to copy a lot of different agents. They're trying to copy because they're on social and they're saying, I got this listing, or I got this sale, or I sold it in 35 minutes, $85 above asking, whatever, right? All that shit. You know what? That's all well and good. But how about if you're going to copy someone? Let's not use the word copy. Let's use the word model. And let's look at what's underneath the water in that iceberg, you know, so instead of the tip. So when we talk about the agent's time, and one of the things you said was, hey, if you do that 3 hours and you do your business, who cares what you do the other time, right? And that's more of a luxury than anything else when you're actually doing the business. I mean, is there in your avatar, Kyle, are you looking for that person that's going to work those 8 hours and work those 7 days and brag about working 100 hours a week?
I mean, in all honesty, I tell agents 60 hours a week is full-time in this industry. Like if you're trying to come into this thing and put in like 30 to 40 hours, like that's part-time. So I'm looking for people that have the ability to commit heavily in the beginning. So I'm looking for people that typically don't have any other commitments. If they do have other commitments, they're ones that are not going to interfere. So I have people who like bartend at night. Fantastic. I got a guy who works for Department of Homeland Security at night. That's great. But I'm looking for people that can be truly committed. Like we don't hire the part-time agent We don't hire the agent that has another job that's going to be interfering with it. Like, I want the people that are all in and will do whatever we ask, because we know what's going to work. Like, we'll literally give you the blueprint, just follow the blueprint. And it's proven. Like, that's why a lot of people join our team, is we've proven. I mean, we'll sell this year, we're on track to sell like over 600 million. Like, we don't have to tell people like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Like a lot of these small up and coming teams, like, we've been doing this for over a decade now at an extremely high level. People want to be a part of that. So we're attracting the people that want to make a lot of money, not just a place to park a license. And we go through a pretty stringent interview process. We don't hire everybody. And again, we try, like, I literally have my my trainer trying to cut people during training, like, because we just don't want to put our time, our energy, our effort into people that aren't equally committed to us.
So as a team leader, you have certain expectations. You set expectations. Is there a minimum standard, or there are just expectations set up?
Yeah, so this is where people screw stuff up. Is there's a saying: if you have standards without enforcement, they're simply suggestions. I'll say that again. If you have standards without enforcement, they're simply suggestions. So a good example of this is, at one point we had a standard that you have to sell a home a month. Like, that was our standard. But if people didn't sell a home a month, we weren't firing them. Like, we were like, oh, well, they sold 6 last year. They're good. Like, we'll keep them around. Okay, well, then that's not a real standard, right? That's just a suggestion to sell 1 a month. So we went back to the drawing board and said, you know what? Let's figure out, what is that real number? We call it the terminable number. Like, what number will we actually terminate somebody at? No questions asked. Like, if you don't do this, you're cut. So for us now, understand our average price is like 7 something. So you're going to change this if you're in a lower price market. Maybe you're going to, same thing if you're in a higher price market, but our average price is in the 7s. So for us, they need to pen 2 deals in the first 6 months, and they need to do 6 every year thereafter. So 2 in the first 6 months, and then 6 every year thereafter. And if not, if we choose to, let's say we get to 6 months and they've only done 1, but they're putting in the effort, we'll give them we have a probation that we can put them on, which is like, hey, you missed the mark. We're going to give you 1 more month to get it on track. And if not, you're cut. But then we will cut them. Like, that's it. It's over. I don't care what else you had going on in your life. Like, it's over. So if you don't enforce that, that creates a big problem. Again, it's just a suggestion. And when we do our quarterly, obviously we run on EOS, we do this quarterly meeting with the whole company. We put up the numbers. Here's how many agents we brought on. Here's how many agents we cut last quarter. And you know who likes that more than anything? Is my top freaking agents.
Yep.
My top agents love that more than anybody, because the last thing those guys want is more people, just seeing more and more people coming on the team. And it's all these dipshits that don't work, that, the top agents give them advice. They do nothing with it. They're, sucking up leads that they're not converting. The top agents don't want those people around. So they absolutely love that we're cutting people consistently. They see that, hey, we're bringing in good quality people. We have this guy, Evan. He's just passed his first year. He's number 2 in the company right now, right? We're almost a quarter of the way through the year. Like, he's the number 2 agent in my company. Like, that's awesome, because you know who's motivated by him? The guy who was number 1 last year. He's like, oh shit, if I don't keep working, Evan's going to catch me. Like, boom. And then we got this other girl, Billy, who's crushing right now. Like, Carly, who's been the top girl in the company for, the last couple of years. She's like, oh shit, Billy's working hard. It's pushing Carly to be better. Top people want to be pushed.
So how did that newer agent get to be one of the top people in the company? What did he do?
Discipline.
People want to know
just
that.
Follow the program, man. We give them, we give them the schedule. We give them the perfect 10-day, and they just freaking follow it. They don't ask questions. They don't fight us. They're like, I mean, I've sold thousands of freaking homes personally. Like, don't join my team and have me tell you what to do and not do it. Because if you don't believe me that what I'm telling you to do is the path to success, don't be on my team. Like, get the fuck out of here, right? You guys are Jersey. Get the fuck out of here. Like, why are you even fucking here, right? Like, you came here because you believe in me as a leader, that I'm going to lead you to the promised land.
Right.
So if you're not going to Follow my lead, get the fuck out. Like, it's not a fit. So the agents that follow my lead, those are the ones that are most successful. But what they do more than anything is I point them in a direction. They don't just go, they fucking sprint, they run, man. Like, I just hand them the ball. I know I don't have to tell them every little detail. They're going to figure it out and they're just going to run with it. But the agents where I got to drag them along to do stuff, like that doesn't work.
So the agent that's going to be successful at Whissel Realty, the agent that's going to be successful is exercising through the perfect 10-day.
Yes.
Right?
Perfect 10-day, ideal weekly schedule. Yep.
So talk to me about, if you can define what that is and briefly give it, and people want it, all you need to do is DM Kyle at Kyle Whissel on Instagram. Yep. So if you could go through that, what a new agent should do, what a stuck agent should do, what any agent should do for that matter.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to pull this thing up on my end. I'll just read some of it off. So some of the things that I'm really big on, obviously you have to have prospecting in the calendar every day. I like to stagger my prospecting blocks. So ideally you're prospecting in the morning every day. There's a saying, the phone gets heavier as the day goes on. So the more early in the day you prospect, the more likely you are to do it. Just like the gym, right? People who work out in the morning tend to be more consistent than those that work out at night. Because at the end of the day, when it's time to go to the gym or it's time to pick up the phone and prospect, it's really hard to do. You're tired, you're exhausted, all kinds of shit has happened. Like, it's just hard to do. So I like to have prospecting in the mornings, but I do like some prospecting blocks in the afternoons and one on the weekend. The reason for that is that there's certain people who just can't answer at 9 o'clock. You could call them every day, Monday to Friday at 9 o'clock. They just can't answer the phone. So having some afternoon prospecting blocks, like 4 to 6, I really like too. So typically like 9 to 11 and 4 to 6. So we stagger those prospecting blocks in there. Some of the other things we have with like office work, that shouldn't be the first thing in the day. We tend to do office work after prospecting, because what ends up happening if you do office work first thing, you get really distracted, and all these little tiny, issues, you turn little molehills into mountains, and you make these little issues big issues. And then even if you do prospect after that, you're really distracted. So for us, it's role play first, then it's prospecting, then it's office work, then it's lunch. I'm a big proponent of never eat alone. So for me, I don't ever go to lunch unless I'm going to lunch with people. So whether that be agents on my team, past clients, referral partners, stuff like that, lunch in the middle of the day. I'm big on lead and transaction follow-up in the afternoon. You should be checking in on all your stuff. Obviously, hopefully you have multiple transactions, but you're doing that stuff after lunch. We go with another block of office work in the afternoon. So about 2 hours a day of office work. And then you're either going on appointments or you're prospecting in the afternoons. And so in our time blocks, we typically have blocks for appointments, and it should be your goal to fill those appointment blocks with appointments.
Yep.
Where a lot of agents make mistakes, especially newer ones, is they get on the phone with a client. They're like, when would you like to meet? The client's like, Friday at 7 p.m. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, I have happy hour in my calendar Friday at 7. We don't roll that way. Like, the way that I teach it to my agents is when I'm on the phone and somebody wants an appointment, I simply ask, are mornings, afternoons, or weekends best for you? And then they'll tell me which one it is. And then I'm like, great, I have a morning block here on, like my blocks are, let's say it was afternoon, I have a Monday at 4 or a Wednesday at 4. Which one's better for you? I don't go straight to that. Some people teach that prospecting technique, but like
they do.
Just simply saying the two. I ask, are mornings, afternoons, or weekends best? Then I plug them into my block from there. That way they feel like they had some level of control, but ultimately they're going to fit into my block. And what I see is other people, they just take whenever the client wants, they meet with them. But like, we make the same amount of money, if not more, than doctors. When's the last time you called the doctor and told the doctor when you wanted to come in? Like, it doesn't happen, right? Like, you call and the doctor tells you what they have available, and you pick whatever works the best, and you figure it the fuck out. Like, you figure out how to get there. Your clients will figure out how to get to you. So typically, again, staggered those appointment blocks, but more of those appointment blocks are in the afternoons. And then if you have an appointment block and you did not fill that appointment block with appointments, that's more time to go prospecting. The other stuff, we have a little bit of time once a week, an hour for business planning. You should actually have some planning. You should have some goals that you've set for yourself. You should be checking in. How are you doing with those goals? Establishing what do you need to do the following week. You should also be going through your finances. So you should have an hour a week of that in there. And then open houses we're huge on. Like open houses, we typically will sell. I bet this year we'll sell over 200 houses from open houses alone. So a lot of our week builds around these open houses. And then what we like to do is you do a Saturday and a Sunday open house. And then throughout the week in those prospecting blocks, then you're either door knocking around those open houses or you're circle dialing around those open houses. So a lot of people will say like, well, who do I prospect to? I don't have enough people to talk to. It's unlimited how many people there are to talk to. But we like to do it around the open houses because it's a lot easier of an open when I knock on your door or when I make that phone call and my open is like, oh, hey, you probably saw the sign go up around the corner on 123 Main Street. You know, we're going to have an open house this week and I want to invite you to come by. Like rarely are you going to get hung up on with that. But if you call me like, hey, I'm Kyle, I'm the neighborhood realtor, click. So the open house is a really nice icebreaker for prospecting.
It's a reason to call. It makes it a warm call.
Yeah.
Hey man, that was great. I mean, the most important thing that I want everybody to get out of this, as I will always, is everything is scheduled, everything is calendared. You've got your schedule of what you should be doing. This will help you get to that $250,000 a year and get that weekly paycheck. I want to go back to one thing and thank you for something that you taught me 3 years ago, or maybe even more. I don't even remember. It might have been more. Easy way to engage is wish people, everybody on your list that's got a birthday today, a happy birthday with a birthday video. Kyle, I've been doing it. You're the one who started me doing it. I do it every day, Saturdays and Sundays. And if I miss, I am so freaked out if I miss it, right? So it's every day I do certain things. And then before my day starts, it's that. And if I miss it, I mean, I've done them at 10 o'clock at night when I realize that I didn't get to
almost missed it. Yeah.
Right. And I say, oh, I almost missed it, but I didn't forget. Yeah. And I'm going to tell you that the people that respond and that get it, they love it. Yeah. And they will always remember you. And as far as for recruiting and as far as building your business, I mean, people will not tell you how special their birthday is, but it really is special. Yeah. Right.
Hey, I've been in rooms of 1,000 people and I'll ask, you know, how many of you in this room got a video for your birthday? And it's usually 5 or less. And then I'll call on those 5 people and I'll say, who sent you the video? All 5 of them remember instantaneously who sent the video. So it's your choice. Do you want to be one of the 995 people who didn't send a video, or do you want to be one of the 5 and be the one that everybody remembers? It's your choice.
It absolutely. And it's just, I mean, the nice things I get back. I now get the hardest day for me in the year is my birthday. Why? Because I get videos. I get so many DMs on my birthday because of what I do. Yeah. This year, 2023 was the first year I was not able to respond to everybody because of the amount of them. The year before, Facebook froze my account because I kept responding to everybody quickly. So that shit can happen. Kyle, Kyle, we're coming up on time. I want to thank you so much. Look, everybody out there, listen, at Kyle Whissel on Instagram, DM him there. His other contact information is there. I want to thank you so much for being on today, man. This time flew. I just have one other question for you. And one other thing is, how do I help you grow your business?
Honestly, man, I want to give you props first. To do this 299 times is a hell of a commitment. So many people would have stopped a long time ago. And it's this level of commitment is what has made you as successful as you are. There's very few people who've done 299 of anything, let alone lining up guests, because Lord knows people like me are not the easiest to track down. So your level of stick-to-itiveness to put this together, man, like it's a round of applause to you. So all I can ask you to do is just keep going, man, because it inspires me to see people like you keep pushing and keep going with things where there's days I'm sure you've been sick, maybe you've been hungover, maybe you just don't feel like fucking doing it, but you've pushed through it. Like that inspires me. And so that's all I want you to do, man.
Hey, man, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. And I will continue to do it. And of course, last but not least, you know, I don't know if we did it 3 years ago, but you do get a hat, and the hat's going to come out to you. A nice gray version, very, very exclusive. So I'm going to be sending this out to you. Hey, man, stay on for 1 minute after we finish. Hey, everybody, next week we've got A very close friend of mine, Brett Sikora, is going to be on. He is the CEO and leader of the Align team coming on. He's from New Jersey, and so am I. We're going to have a great conversation about how to build here in New Jersey and everywhere else. Kyle, thank you for coming on. We will see you real soon. Not sure where, but we will definitely see you. We'll probably see you next Monday at 2 p.m. at the latest. It's Eastern time, 11 a.m. for the Fast Forward Movement Mastermind. Thanks so much, Kyle. Please stay on for a minute. Nelson, hit the video.
Hey.